Hey guys, welcome to the Bourbon in College podcast and YouTube channel, depending on how you're receiving this. I'm Austin. Let's get started. So today I'm going through a top 5 list. This top 5 list is the top 5 bourbons under 50. Now this was decided by not me, not some website. This was decided by you. On Instagram a few weeks ago, I posted a picture asking people to comment their favorite bourbons under $50. I compiled the top 5. There was a lot that tied, so I kind of had a little decision making there based off what I had and what I like. And so this is the result of that. I'm going to give you the top 5. They're in order of how I like them. This is no real order. This is no official order. They're all good. You should get them all. So I'm going to start with I don't want to say the one I like least, but out of these 5, I guess so, is Elijah Craig Small Batch. Now, long ago, this used to be a 12-year bourbon. It is no longer age stated, but a lot of people think it's still at least close to 12 years. They just don't want to pigeonhole themselves. It's 94 proof, so 47 ABV. It's a basic bourbon. It's classic. It's really good. It's your step up above Jim Beam, Jack Daniels. All these are that, really. This is one of the first bourbons I got in my collection. You'll see the actual first one later. I'm not going to give a full review until we get to the last one, which is my favorite. Then I'll give you a full review. Quickly on the nose. Classic bourbon with a lot of vanilla and a little bit of caramel. Oaky. It's good. It's not too complex. It's more complex than your, like I said, your Jack Daniels, your Jim Beam. It's interesting. It's an easy drinker. I enjoy it. So that's Elijah Craig. Now you may or may not see this between each one. And obviously you will on the podcast. I'm going to edit more. But in between each, I'm filling my glass with water, drinking it. It hydrates me and it cleans out the glass. I don't have enough glassware to get a new glass, which is also why I'm not doing a full tasting in all of these. So that's one. Now my number 2 was a first for me. It's the first bourbon I got with the intent of collecting. Buffalo Trace. Classic Buffalo Trace. This one is a Rouse's store pick, so it's a single barrel. But Buffalo Trace is my number 4 on the list of top 5 under 50. This one, Elijah Craig, I don't have the price on because I bought it well before I keep track of this. This bottle I got for like $32. Again, it's a single barrel. You can find it cheaper other places. You can find it more expensive other places. It is what it is. I've reviewed this one fully already, as well as the Elijah Craig. So again, short reviews. Now this is the bourbon I suggest that you get people into if you're trying to get them into bourbon. It's a good start. It's easy. It's like Elijah Craig. It's easy. It's simple. It's not gonna smack you. It's not going to throw you for a loop on what you're smelling, tasting. I get a little bit of citrus on this one. I don't know why. I always have from that. This is my second bottle of the same barrel, same store pick. And this barrel I get a lemony. Maybe that's Buffalo Trace. I haven't had just a plain Buffalo Trace in a while. But that's good. That's delicious. Drink this all. This is my daily, one of my daily drinkers, one of my go-tos. I love it. All right, so that's number 2. All right, guys. So my number 3 bourbon, top 5 bourbon under $50. It's also a classic, Four Roses single barrel. Now, so far, these first 3 bourbons have been bourbons you see all over. At least when I was watching all the media and listening to all the podcasts, these were the big starter bourbons. I couldn't agree more. Very good for the $35 price. I believe I got this for. Awesome bourbon. It's my second bottle. You can see how far down it is. So let's and that sound too. Get a little taste of it. Let's see. All right. So this one again, it's being a single barrel, so it's going to be unique. Each bottle is going to be a little different. Now the store pick single barrels have certain recipes. They have, I believe, 2 different mash bills and 3, 4, 5 different types of yeast. So that brings a whole combination of recipes. I don't know how they do the single barrels at a regular release. I'm pretty sure they are all one recipe. Could be wrong on that. But the bourbon, these 3 you've seen so far were actually probably the first 3 bourbons I had in my collection. So I went along the classic starter route bourbon-wise, obviously. A little bit of nuttiness on this. Otherwise, classic vanilla and caramel. It's a little more complex than the other 2. It's the first one I got that was really a more interesting bourbon. It's high rye, I believe. This is where you get a little spice in there from that. This is 100 proof, so it's got a little more kick than the 40 proof Buffalo Trace and the 40%, 80 proof Buffalo Trace and 86 proof Elijah Craig. But still not hot by any means. Still a good beginner. I wouldn't start with this necessarily, but I would definitely be in the first week. I love this episode. Now, if you've been keeping up, I've been doing a bottom shelf bracket battle. The semifinal rounds coming up. And I enjoy that. It's fun trying all those things actually I've never tried before. But this is my wheelhouse. This under $50, medium shelf to the normal person, maybe medium lower shelf to the avid bourbon enthusiast, but really good stuff. Easy to get to. None of these are real hard to find. Buffalo Trace had a scare for a little while that it's hard to find that bourbon for a while, but here I've never had any issue in Baton Rouge. So that's Four Roses single barrel. Now my number 4, before I grab that, I'm going to enjoy the rest of this and drink some water. I poured this one a little heavy for a sample pour, but hey, who cares? I don't know how we're going to do top 5 under, but I do top 5 under 75, top 5 under 100, and then maybe more past that, if budget permits. But man, y'all want to start sending me something or something. I can't buy all this. Just kidding. Behind me is where I moved my Scotch shelf to, and more of my world whiskey shelf, because I ran out of room, and I made my main bar just a bourbon bar. So the number 2, based off y'all's votes, the number 2 bourbon under $50 is Eagle Rare. This is a 10-year Kentucky straight bourbon whiskey. It used to be single barrels, not anymore. From what I understand, the Buffalo Trace product, right? From what I understand, it's still almost single barrel, but the machine they use to be considered single barrel, they have to make sure it's completely emptied and completely cleaned out before they pour another barrel in. They don't want it to do that. So maybe a little bit of remnants of the last barrel, but still almost single barrel, again, from what I understand. This one is 45%, so 90 proof. This is a lot sweeter in my opinion. It's like candy. Being that 10-year age, it gets real candied. I see that with ryes, and I see that with even high rye bourbons, which I believe this is. It's not a wheater, that's for sure. But after about 8 to 10 years, it gets real candy. Yeah, sweet. It's definitely more oaky. So this is number 2, and this is one of my favorite bourbons. It's amazing for the price, in my opinion. Get this for about $40 something. It's kind of close to the top of the range, but man, I think it's worth it. All right. In fact, it's worth it so much, I don't want to finish this heavy hand right now. And I want a nice new cup for my full review of my number 1 bourbon. So, I'm going to go get another glass. Now, ladies and gentlemen, for my number 1, y'all voted in top 5 bourbon under $50. I have the 2019 San Francisco World Spirits Competition Bourbon of the Year, Whiskey of the Year, Henry McKenna 10-year bottle and bond. Let me get the name right. Aged 10 years, Henry McKenna single barrel Kentucky Straight bottle and bond bourbon whiskey. Now this is the 2009 release, which I still think is really good. Some people say it's not as good as the 2008. I've had them both. I think they're pretty much what and what. But, you know, people say, whatever. This was hard to find because it won Bourbon of the Year last year. After finding this, I got a bottle. Then I heard it won Whiskey of the Year this year. So if you can see back there, I bought 2 more bottles. That being said, this is probably my favorite bourbon on my shelf, with an asterisk. So, off the top of my head, right now, it's definitely my favorite, although my favorite changes often, so. Never know, it could just be the hype. I think it lives up to the hype. A lot of people argue it. Tasting's weird, but it wasn't just one person. It was 40 people on a panel voted this Whiskey of the Year. So I trust it. It's really good no matter how you feel about it. It's good. So I'm going to give a full review on it. Now the color, it's darker. It's aged 10 years, so it's been in the oak for a while. It's a Heaven Hill product. It's being bottle and bond. It's 100 proof. Man, I get like maple syrup on the nose. The classic vanilla. A fresh caramel. Not like a caramel sauce, like a fresh caramel. Super sweet, like a pie almost. Alright, let's see. Like a vanilla caramel latte without the coffee. It does have a little bit of darkness. I think it comes from the oak. It's not really coffee, but it's good. It's like a pie. Like I said, like on the nose, you get a little bit of maple. Not nutty at all, which is usually my favorite tasting note in a bourbon, but dang, this is so good. It's so complex. For being $30, $28 to $30. I got this one for $28. I got those two for $30 each. It blows my mind how good it is for the price. Again, I can't fairly say it's bourbon of the year or whiskey of the year because there's so many good and expensive and non-expensive bourbons and whiskeys that I've never had. So I can't fairly say that. but right now it's probably the favorite on my shelf, and it's been since I got it. And that was before I found out it won Whiskey of the Year. That's before it won Whiskey of the Year. So, that's my 2 cents on that. The finish is oaky. But it's not over oaked. It's that perfect amount of oakiness and caramel, vanilla, long lasting finish. Still going. In fact, I'm going to get a little water. Try it again. Dang. That nose just gets me. It's definitely my favorite nose. It's something new every time. It's rich. I wouldn't sit here and drink this all day. It's definitely rich and complex. It would be like my starter bourbon for the day. And then I'd move to like a Buffalo Trace I've been really enjoying some Isaac Bowman port finish. Because you want to sit and ponder this one. You don't want to be drinking it all day just to throw it back. It's not something you throw back. It's something that makes you think, which is really rare with a bourbon its price range. There's nothing like the Henry McKenna. The baseline Henry McKenna. In fact, I'll shit out. The baseline is simple. It's there. It's decent. It didn't make it through in the bottom shelf bracket challenge. This is just years and years, literally, above it. Congratulations to Heaven Hill and Henry McKenna for winning Whiskey of the Year. It's awesome. Bourbon beats Scotch. That's amazing. I like Scotch, as you can tell. Nothing against it. But bourbon is my jam. So, happy for it. Thanks for watching this. I hope you learned something. If you're new to whiskey, new to bourbon, you just find this video. Try these out. They're all cheap. You can't go wrong. Buy a bottle. Any of the 5, buy it. I would start with Elijah Craig or Buffalo Trace, even an Eagle Rare, because this one's a little more complex. But you can't go wrong with any of these. They're all good. All great starter bourbons. Can't beat them. That's how I started. If you're new, also like and subscribe this video. Check me out. Go subscribe to my podcast on your favorite podcast player. If you're listening as a podcast right now, go rate and review me on iTunes or whatever podcast player you're using. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. Go follow me on Instagram. I'm at bourbon_in_college on Instagram. I'm in Bourbon on Twitter. There's a Facebook page. Go join that. Email me at bourbonin2020@yahoo.com if you have any comments, concerns. If you want to be on the show, send me an audio file if you tell me your whiskey story. You might be able to get on the podcast. Thanks for watching, guys. Cheers. Hey guys, thanks for listening to the Bourbon in College podcast. If you like the show, give it a 5-star review on your favorite podcast directory. If you want to support the show, go to patreon.com/bourbonincollege, where you can pledge as little as $1 a month and get access to our patron exclusive podcast feed where I do special episodes every week. If you pledge $5 a month, you will get a 3D printed custom Bourbon in College coaster and Glencairn top. And if you pledge $20 a month, you get to be interviewed on the podcast. Find me on Instagram at bourbon_n_college. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. Just search Bourbon in College. Go to bourbonincollege.com to see where you can find me. All the podcast channels are there. My YouTube channel's on there. All my social media. The Patreon page. So that's your one-stop shop for everything. Thanks for listening, everybody. See you next time.